All right, I'm here to talk about the best ride at the Magic Kingdom, which is the Tomorrowland Speedway. That's right, it is the most authentic ride you can go on at Disney World, at any of the Disney parks, and I'm going to tell you why. First off, it's a day one ride. This opened up on October 1st, 1971, which is the opening day of the park. The track was then expanded in 1974, which was awesome, and they should do more of. But they tend to chop up the track. It expanded in 1974, and it stayed that way until about 1994, when they drastically cut it down for Mickey's Stupid Birthday Land. I was a kid. This is my favorite ride, by the way, in case you couldn't tell. I was pissed when that got cut off. Especially because it was cut off for a land that nobody goes to. Well, not that nobody goes to. A land that was kind of like tacked on, and just, it wasn't for me because I was older then. But every year, every time they talk about an expansion to Tomorrowland or Fantasyland, the first thing the Disney heads do is say, "Oh, there goes the Speedway. They're finally getting rid of the Speedway." And to that, I say, "Shut up." Disney Dan did a video. It was kind of sort of a post-mortem video before D23, where he said this was the end of the Speedway, and I was really upset. I heard that, and I was like, oh my God, I got to figure out a way to get down there and ride it before it goes away, because I didn't get to ride the Maelstrom before it went away, because Disney just said, they honestly announced it, and then 2 months later, the Maelstrom was gone, and they're swapping it out for whatever. I don't know what that ride is, some obscure movie ride. So yes, we've lost another little piece of the Tomorrowland Speedway because the Tron coaster is coming in. Now, I'm a big fan of this coming in, and I think it's a really good idea, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But I really wish they would stop chopping up my track. And really, the only reason they chop up my track is to distract from the fact that they haven't fixed their Yeti over at Expedition Everest. So, Imagineers, quit chopping up my track and go fix your stinking Yeti. And, a lot of people complain about, the heat. It's very hot at that ride, and the smells. You smell the gas fumes. And there's two reasons for that. Yes, it's authentic. At tracks, if you've ever been to an actual racetrack, yes, it's very hot at actual racetrack because of the asphalt, and there's very little cover over top. And yes, it does smell. It smells like gas fumes because that's an actual combustion engine. But that's part of the actual immersion of it. It's true immersion. When you drive the car, you put your foot on the gas, something actually happens. When you're on Mission to Mars and you press those buttons, you're not actually going to Mars. You're actually just pressing buttons, and there's a simulation. This isn't a simulation. This is an actual car at Tomorrowland Speedway. When you ride Soarin', do you think you're actually flying over an orange grove? No, there's an Imagineer up there spraying orange Lysol in your face. At the Tomorrowland Speedway, that's actual gasoline smell. I'm kidding a little bit, but you can have a legitimate race. If you line up next to the person, you two start at the same time, yes, you can have a real race at the Tomorrowland Speedway. And that's part of the fun and really the beauty of this ride, and why I think it's the best, and why I think it should never go away. For a lot of young boys and girls, this is their first time driving a car. Granted, mom or dad usually has to step on the pedal for them, but it's the first time in an actual combustion engine with an actual steering wheel. When they turn left, the car goes left. When they turn right, the car goes right. To a point, yes, there is a rail underneath, but the sister ride to this is Autopia over in Disneyland. And if you go find old video of Autopia has a rail now too. The cars run on a rail. In the early days, those cars were not on a rail. People were just free driving on this road. I can't imagine the chaos. I can't imagine what a pain in the butt that was for cast members, because I know me, and if you put me in a car like that, I'm going to try to figure out a way to turn around and go back. I'm going to take the car to its limits of hooliganism. And I'm sure in 1955, people were doing that too. So it must have been a nightmare trying to keep people going the right way, or resetting cars that had gone off the track. So there's a reason for that rail being in there. But I've actually been thinking about this. I may do a follow-up video that if they ever change, because yes, it uses gas engine, uses a combustion engine, and that is sort of the way of the past. I think going forward, if they ever do a remodel, if they ever do a change to this, an update to this ride, I really think you should get someone like Tesla involved and do all electric cars. But I may do another video on that on how to change that and how to update that ride. Yes, also in recent years, I almost forgot to mention that when they moved Dumbo used to be in the spot that part of the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is. When they moved Dumbo, they actually had to cut down part of the track as well, making me further sad. But I actually have a trip planned, next year? Yeah, 2020, for Nerdicane Jr.'s 4th birthday. It's going to be his first trip to Disney. He's nuts about cars, loves Hot Wheels. And, yes, this is from my influence as well. But I cannot wait to put him in that car. I can't wait to see it because I'm sure it was... I got my love of racing from my father. Growing up in Seffner, Florida, Big Daddy Don Garlitz had a mechanic shop down the road from us, and he had a lot of his dragsters at that shop and a lot of old vintage race cars. So every once in a while, I think it was usually the 4th of July or Memorial Day or Labor Day, he would bring out a lot of his old cars, and my dad would take me to that, and I sat in old dragsters, I sat in old Indy cars, and there was just something really cool about that. And my dad got to experience, he got to experience me taking, his son, Nerdicane, to Disney World and putting me in the car and sitting me down, and, I get to drive. He's got to press the pedal, but I get to drive, and I really can't wait to continue that cycle and take little Nerdicane Jr. on the Tomorrowland Speedway. But this ride actually started out as the Grand Prix, which was really cool because Grand Prix racing was big back in the 70s, and the GP racing of the 60s was huge. It was very dangerous. You talk about sports that were like a blood sport. Back in the 50s and then the early 60s, you got to think about these GP cars were approaching 200 miles per hour. They were not using disc brakes, they were using drum brakes, and a lot of these drivers in their 60s, in the early 60s and then the 50s, they didn't have seatbelts and they didn't have helmets because they thought that would weigh the car down. They thought to save weight, they're getting rid of all this stuff, which is unfathomable today. Which brings me to my next point. The reason why I think it's so cool that the location of the Tomorrowland Speedway, the Grand Prix, Tomorrowland Indy Speedway, as it's been called. It's had a bunch of different names. I think the really cool thing is that it is sort of in that walkway between Fantasyland and Tomorrowland. And I think that's very poetic in a way. I don't know if the original Imagineers, designed it that way, but when you think about it, racing and racing technology is 1 foot in fantasy and 1 foot in technology. Think about, nowadays we're getting these hypercars that are hybrid, or we're getting things, complete hypercars that are electric. They're doing 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds. And it's getting crazy. But if you had told somebody that this was going to happen in an electric car, you tell them, okay, 2019, you tell somebody in 1970, you tell Carroll Shelby in 1970, oh yeah, 40 years from now, there's going to be fully electric cars that have a 300-mile range that will do 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. And it would have been absolute fantasy to him. But to an engineer, it's science. It's not science fiction, it's actual science. And I think that's part of the beauty of where the Tomorrowland Speedway is, in between those two lands, because it is 1 foot in fantasy and it is 1 foot in technology. A lot of people, when they talk about this ride, think that someday it's going to get a Cars makeover, and I really hope it doesn't, because we already have Cars Land over in California. Actually, I'll probably do another video on how to update this, and that'll probably be a short video. But I don't think a Cars update is what it should be, because Cars Land has its own land, and I think if you did a Cars theming of that ride, suddenly it wouldn't be part of Tomorrowland, it would be part of Fantasyland. And it would be an odd part because none of the rest of Fantasyland is the type of story that Cars is. But yes, yeah, I mean, hit like and subscribe if you agree with me that Tomorrowland Speedway is the best ride in all the Disney parks. It's obvious, after this video, you know it's obvious after this video. But hit a like and subscribe. Hit a share with anybody who's a Disney head of yours that you know. Thanks for listening, and I'm probably going to do over the next few weeks as this year goes, as I ramp up to taking Nerdicane Jr. on his first Disney trip. I'm probably going to do a lot more Disney videos because I just love it. I'm a Disney head. I'm kind of weird like that. But thanks for listening, you guys. Go have a good day. Bye.